All right, let's talk about cracking those common and, let's be real, super intimidating interview questions. You know the ones. By the end of this, you're going to have a whole toolkit of frameworks to help you answer every single one with some serious confidence. We have all been there, right? The interviewer gives you that smile, leans in, and just drops that classic opener. And your mind just goes completely blank. It's the one question that can make or break the first impression. Today, we're going to make sure you nail it every single time. So, how are we going to do that? With this, right here. Think of this infographic as our playbook. It lays out these really smart, strategic ways to handle 12 of the toughest questions out there. We're going to break down these frameworks and show you how to go from a pretty generic answer to one that's genuinely impressive. Okay, let's kick things off with the questions that are all about you. This first part is designed to help you build a story about your career that's compelling, it's concise, and most importantly, it's relevant. It's all about grabbing control of the narrative right from the get-go. So let's go right back to that classic opener, tell me about yourself. Look, the secret here isn't to just list everything on your resume. It's all about structure. And for that, we've got the FLIP method. It's designed to help you deliver this sharp 2-minute pitch that connects your past directly to this job. So here's how it works. You start by flagging your biggest wins, the stuff you're really proud of. Then you list only the experience that's actually relevant to the job. Next, you identify the overlap between your skills and what they're looking for. And finally, you plant compelling connections, showing you're genuinely excited about this role. It's a story, but a story with a point. All right, deep breath. Now for the one everybody dreads. So what's your greatest weakness? The goal here is definitely not to pretend you're perfect. It's to show that you're self-aware and you're actually working on improving. The real framework is the perfect tool to turn this trap into a chance to really impress them. And this is exactly why this framework is so powerful. Please avoid that cliche answer like, oh, I'm just a perfectionist. Instead, get real. You frame a real weakness. You explain the impact it had. You show the actions you've taken to get better, and then you highlight a positive result from that effort. It's so much more honest, it's structured, and frankly, it's way more impressive. Now, on the flip side, when they ask about your proudest accomplishment, you need a way to tell that story with maximum impact. You can't just state what you did. You've got to make them feel why it mattered. For that, we use the ACE method. The ACE framework turns your accomplishment into a little story. It's super simple. You start with the action. What'd you do? Then you give the context. What was the situation? And finally, you explain the effect. What was the results? This structure doesn't just list a task. It shows the real value you created. Okay, so once you've set the stage with who you are and what you've achieved, the interview starts to shift. Now it's about connecting your personal story to their company and to this specific role. This is where you prove that you don't just want any job, you want this job. Answering why this company takes more than just saying, oh, I like your products. The interviewer is really just testing if you've done your homework. And the MRP method is a brilliant way to organize your research into an answer that shows you're genuinely interested. The MRP framework makes sure your answer hits all the right notes. M is for mission. Connect your own values to the company's purpose. R is for role. Explain exactly why this job is the perfect next step for your career. And P is for people and culture. Mention something specific that excites you about the team. You hit all three, and you've shown you really did your research. Whew! This can be another tricky one. Why are you leaving? It is such an easy question to fall into a trap of being negative, and that is a huge red flag for any recruiter. So the focus framework is designed to keep your answer 100% positive and all about the future. Let's break this down. You frame your answer entirely around a forward-looking opportunity. You explain how this new opportunity aligns with your goals, contrasting your current path with the new upward trajectory this role offers. And the last step, this is the most important one. Stop. Just stop talking. Be concise, be confident, and end on that high note. You're being pulled toward a great future, not pushed away from a bad past. And now for our final section, the curveballs. These are those behavioral questions they throw at you to see how you handle pressure, setbacks, and feedback. But with the right frameworks, even the toughest questions are totally manageable. Just like the weakness question, asking about your biggest failure is really a test of your maturity and your resilience. What the interviewer wants to see is if you can actually learn from your mistakes. The SAFE method gives you a structure to tell a story about failure that ends on a high note of personal growth.
Using SAFE, you start with situational framing, setting the scene without making a bunch of excuses. Then describe the action you took that led to the problem. Now, this next part is crucial. You show that the failure is owned. You take full responsibility. But you can't end there. The final step is showing your evolution. What did you learn and how has it made you better at your job?
This quote is a perfect example of that last step, evolution shown. I mean, it's one thing to admit it was a mistake to be a yes man, but explaining the lesson you learned from it, the importance of standing up for what you believe, that shows real growth. That's what interviewers are actually looking for. Okay, this is a very specific curveball, and it's designed to see one thing. How do you handle direct feedback? Are you going to get defensive, or are you coachable? The GLOW framework is your guide to navigating this conversation like a total pro. So GLOW keeps the whole conversation constructive. First, you go with the positive feedback you got. Then you listen to and own the deal areas, the places you need to improve, without getting defensive at all. Finally, you show how you're making progress, describing the steps you've already taken. It just proves you're someone who can take feedback and run with it. So, wow, we have covered a ton of ground and yeah, a lot of acronyms, but all of these tools, they really just serve one single purpose, to give you a framework for confidence. And that's the big idea that ties everything together. And this right here is the most important thing to remember. Please do not memorize these as scripts. The goal is not a robotic, perfect answer. It's a reliable structure. Think of these frameworks, FLIP, REAL, ACE, all of them, as mental blueprints to help you organize your thoughts when you're under pressure. That way, the real, authentic you can shine through. So you now have a full toolkit to take on these common interview challenges. The next step is really making them your own. So go on, take a look back, pick the one question that has always tripped you up, and try building an answer using its framework. Because at the end of the day, preparation is the real source of confidence.